I'm dressed today like a banker because I'm going to drive a nice, sedate, dark gray German sedan. It makes perfect sense. Or does it? When the Mercedes W201 series was introduced in 1982 as a new entry-level Mercedes-Benz, it was hard to believe that just under a decade later, it would be a fearsome performance machine. When you're driving a car like this 1990 Mercedes 190e 2.5 16 Evo 2, you're always reminded that you're in a Mercedes-Benz. But it's a Mercedes-Benz with a marked difference. Mercedes-Benz and all of its predecessor companies, Benz, Daimler, were always interested in performance. And they came in and out of racing with some interesting intervals. Obviously, all early manufacturers used racing as a proving ground to not only improve their performance in engineering, but to prove to the public that their cars were worthy and durable. When, after that initial period at the turn of the century, Mercedes continued to race through the 1920s at endurance races like Le Mans and the Targa Florio and the Mille Miglia. They proved that they had cars that were certainly capable of taking overall prizes and class prizes whenever they went out. A commitment to engineering excellence is something that always was the hallmark of the cars of Mercedes-Benz. And by the time you get to the 1930s and the great silver arrows, it was clear that Mercedes only entered to win. After World War II, it was also remarkable that so few years after the conflict and the rebuilding of the factories, Mercedes was not only back in racing, but back in racing to win. That all ended in as a factory effort in 1955, and Mercedes went silent for decades. There were occasional rally entries, works-backed, but not actual works cars. And racing had become something very, very different than what it had been. So it's also quite interesting to think about why this particular car that I'm driving today was built. It's among, I think, one of the most interesting parts of competition when manufacturers look to and are encouraged to build high-performance variants of their street-going cars. And this car is an homologation special built for the Mercedes participation in the great Deutsche Tourenwagen-Meisterschaft, the legendary DTM, German production car racing. Now, of course, production car is a relative term because while this car certainly is a Mercedes 190e, it's a 190e with a marked difference. The road-going version that I'm driving today, again, this is 1990, naturally aspirated, 16-valve engine, put out 235 horsepower, which was quite respectable for the time, with prodigious amounts of torque. The racing versions put out over 360 horsepower, and in their races were very successful against the competition from Opel and, of course, the chief rival Audi and BMW. This is the car that Mercedes built to fight the mighty BMW M3. And those battles were legendary. 1990 and the introduction of the Evo 2, or second evolution of the 190 16-valve car. As this period went on, the ties between AMG and Mercedes grew ever closer and was leading to the eventual acquisition of AMG by Mercedes. This car is equipped with the so-called AMG Power Pack. And the difference between this and the earlier Evo 1 is clearly evident in the immediately available power. In order to be homologated for the racing series, manufacturers had to build 500 examples of the road-going car. And indeed, they built a few more than 500 of this particular car, but all of these cars were numbered from 1 to 500, and you can see the number of this car here on the gear shift lever. These cars are exceedingly rare, and of course, were not sold new in this performance form in the United States. The example I'm driving today is practically a new car. It's got less than 7,700 kilometers on it, so just about 4,800 miles from new, and it feels like a brand new car. It's been superbly maintained over the years and used on a regular basis, but sparingly so. So it's not one of those cars where you fear that everything is going to go wrong at the moment that you open it up. One of the things that's so rewarding about driving this car is the way it delivers its power. It's very smooth, very linear, very Mercedes-Benz. It doesn't reveal its performance capabilities in any way that is temperamental or peaky. It feels just like the solid, reliable banker that it was built to be, but one that's hired a really great personal trainer and is bulked up. This is a really satisfying car to drive. You feel secure, you feel potent, and you're having fun. Effortless fun. I guess if I had to describe this car in 2 words, that's what they would be. The Evo 2 also has a very sophisticated suspension. It shares the hydraulic self-leveling seen in some other Mercedes models, but whereas those models have automatic features to balance load, for instance when you load the trunk, here in the Evo 2 you can actually manually select ride height for the conditions in which you are driving, and also that combined with the very sophisticated aerodynamics with a spoiler, the adjustable front splitter, the adjustable flap on the trunk, and of course that massive wing on the rear deck produce amazing amounts of downforce and also help give this car a very, very, very respectable coefficient of drag of 0.29. Although this is very much a Mercedes, there still are very clear signs of what this car is built to be and what it can do. There are not too many other Mercedes models where you see a red line on the tachometer at 7,300 RPM. And this is an engine that's happy to rev that high if you want to do that. Most Mercedes do deliver their power much, much lower. But that Cosworth head really betrays its true racing roots every time you give this engine its head. The 190e Evo 2, unfortunately, while it didn't have the success in the DTM that Mercedes had hoped it would have in 1990, was the basis of the car that would finally win Mercedes the championship in 1992. And by that time, lots of top-level drivers had been attracted to the DTM, and to watch those races today is to watch a masterclass in driving. Very close, very competitive driving, always very aggressive, but very clean. Not a lot of wrecks. It's the kind of racing that really brings you very close to the action, and, of course, also emphasizes what manufacturers get out of building high-performance cars that look like and are closely related to the models they sell in the showroom every day. When you think win on Sunday, sell on Monday, this is the kind of car that you think of. After watching this car perform at Spa or the Nürburgring, I could see myself going into my Mercedes dealer that next day to say, I want one of these. And for the very few around the world that were lucky enough to get one, this is a joy that can be matched in very, very, very few cars. And I also think that it comes back to the fundamental fact that good touring car racing, just like good sports car racing, is always best enjoyed when the cars that you're watching on the track are like the cars you can see on the street. I've never been a big fan of the whole silhouette racing thing, the prototype thing. It's interesting from a technological point of view, I suppose, and also from the point of view of being entertained by a driver. But to really connect with the cars you see, like NASCAR in the 1950s and early and late 60s, the Trans Am races, the fact that people went to the track and saw cars like this and then could see them on the street, I think makes all the difference in the world. I am one lucky son of a gun, I'll tell you. Whenever you can rev a Mercedes engine to 7,000 RPM, it's a very good day. And driving this 1990 Mercedes 190e 2.5 16 Evo 2 makes this a really, really, really very good day. The BMW E30 M3 is a superb car and justly acclaimed for its performance and dynamic capabilities. And you can certainly tell why Mercedes would want to build a car to compete head-on against it. It's a shame that more people can't experience the Mercedes 190e 2.5 16, especially in this Evo 2 guise, because I think if they could, the M3 wouldn't be quite as much the king of the hill as it's been. Hi, it's Donald with the answer to this week's Fun Fast Fact quiz question. So, what is the secret anti-theft device seen in 1950s Fiats? It's the starting. You put the key in, turn it, and then lift the right lever on the floor to start the car, and if you need, the left lever for the choke. If you don't know it, you're not going anywhere. Thanks for watching our videos. If you like these videos, let your friends know. Subscribe, comment, share.